Hey there, Niiamah here. Actually, what we're going to do is something different here. We create powerful spaces. We help trailblazers to go forth and really move beyond the status quo and to helping to create a future that's distinct from the past. And a lot of times we're doing it through deep, powerful coaching, or we're getting together different trailblazers and bringing together your peer group through the Trailblazer Collective and giving us an opportunity to really pull the threads of our thought leadership, our being leadership, which is what I consider like influence, right? And being able to be in just being in conversations that really are facilitated to help you look at different aspects of your life. And then there are times where you just need to have a conversation that's real, a conversation that's deeper than most others, but at the same time meets you exactly where you need to be. And through that, the different types of understanding, the different things that need to unfold, truly do. And so right now I'm having a conversation with Georgie, and I'm going to invite you into this here. We've been talking about skydiving and our experiences with it, some of the lessons that we've gotten from it, the ways that like they've been completely different experiences, and just like even experiencing the same thing differently. And so with that there, I want to invite you into this year. And I don't know, we don't know where this conversation is going to go. It's really just going to be the two of us, and we've hit record, and we're inviting you to be a part of this here. Let this be an opportunity for you to see just how simple it can be to show up in the world. For example, we're just going to go back in the conversation, and our magic is already done, right? Let this be an opportunity for you to join our conversation. Like, even if we're not going to interact with you, like there's things that are going to come up for you. Take some time to think about what how you would join the conversation. If there's a question that we say or something that's curious to you, take note of it. Bring it up. Let us know, and like we'll physically continue the conversation. But more importantly, I think there's things for you that you can bring into your world that can really play out. So interestingly enough, we're bringing out a completely different modality. This is a tool, and the tool is called Let's Chat. I just made that up. It sounds fun. I'm like, if I give it a tool name, it will come out. You know what the funny thing is, Georgie? I'm gonna come in with you right now. Years from now, I'm going to be on stage, and there's going to be thousands of people there, and there's going to be this invitation. I'm like, okay, everyone, for this next exercise that we're going to do, we're going to use one of my favorite tools. It's called Let's Chat. And like we're just gonna go with it. So this is how things get born, right? This is especially in the game that we play. This is how things get born. So, cool. I thanks. Like let's just continue, or let's
Yeah.
just see where we are in conversation here. Um,
Let's chat is like the love child of coaching conversations, isn't it?
well, that's it. I think there's an element of this here that's like, um, without getting too cerebral about this here. It's like I know that coaching is just a tool, right? What's becoming more and more clear to me is like I'm an influential leader, and coaching is one of the best tools that I have as someone who chooses influence as a way to getting things done, as opposed to authority as a way to get things done. And so, from just like that modality of choosing influence, like there's this whole element of, yeah, one of my most powerful tools is questions, because if I'm going to influence you to do it, it means that I can't like you need to want to do it some way, shape, or form. You need to like feel that there. So, yeah, uh, and with that, I've been finding that how do I say it? I call it service now. I'm like, all I know is I'm going to serve. I've spent years as a consultant. I've been on multiple boards, as an advisor, a trusted advisor and leader in that environment. I've spent years as a coach. Like, to bring only one side of me to anything is like it doesn't feel like we're bringing service. And so today, I know that even just in having a conversation, we can have some really powerful insights. And that's
Yeah.
that's what that's what's playing out for me.
Yeah, I like that. It's almost like saying, everybody has a methodology and processes and tools as a raft, but once you get to the other side, you can just let go and send it back because you're swimming.
Exactly.
Yes, we've gone from skydiving to swimming. Oh God, I'm just exhausted at the end of this
Well,
session. Oh,
yeah, you're making me think right now. Going as we step into swimming, uh, there was an image in my mind around the first time that I ever treaded water, because I never learned how to swim when I was, I think I was in fourth grade, so maybe like 10 years old. We had a learn to swim program, and I jumped in at a certain level and made it up. Like every level they were teaching you one other thing. You had to focus on one other element of swimming. And I got to a point where there was a tread in water uh, portion, and I like, it's so funny. I can't believe this is coming back to mind right now, but it's really true. uh Somehow, like, I wasn't able to actually tread water. Like, I left that lesson like unable to tread water, and somehow people didn't see that. I still got passed on to the next level, right? And the next levels involved other types of swimming and such. I made about like two more levels beyond, and then we had to go do something like dive into the deep end, like go down to the deep end and then come back up. And I knew in my heart, I'm like, I still don't know how to tread water. I can't get back up. I'm gonna sink. I'm gonna die. Um, and there's like this 10-year-old Niiamah at the Pensauken pool, uh, that's like freaking out on the side, and they're like, "Oh, if you're freaking out because you're not going to dive into the deep end, then you you must not you must not be good with water. So we're going to send you back to level 2, where you go back and you like start blowing bubbles in the water
oh
and getting comfortable."
no.
So like, it's funny looking at this now, because I did, and what happened is that the summer ended before I got back up to the lesson with tread and water. And it's like I had skipped, went by, and then rather than just going back and working on what needed to get worked on, I was like, oh, I need to actually put in a lot of work up until then. And I think that last part actually speaks a lot to me, because it's like, I have had friends who tried to teach me how to tread water. Nicole and I, living out in Southeast Asia, have gotten a chance to spend time on some very beautiful beaches, relax with one another in a fairly nice way. So I've been able to see what it's like to tread water for 3 seconds in a pool that's full of salt, or like a body of water that's full of salt. And we ended up going. This happened. I think I was 32 when I treaded water for the first time. I was on a boat with six of our friends in Ha Long Bay, Vietnam,
Oh,
and
beautiful.
yeah, it's just absolutely gorgeous, right? And he had flown in from the U.S. We're hanging out, and we're diving into the bay, just and I see diving meaning like we're jumping from our boat,
The top
right?
of the boat, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I have learned, Georgie, this way of like looking really great in a bright orange life vest. Like, I'm like, oh, I just tons of pictures with me on it. I'm like, I don't have any shame around it. I want to get in the water and go.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm in this water, and all these people are talking about like how they're like synchronized swimmers and they've done all this stuff. I'm like, I think this is the time. Like, if not now, then when am I ever going to feel comfortable enough to swim? So I look at Nicole, my wife, and I'm like, love, I'm going to do it. She's like, I believe in you. I'm like, if I start falling, like, she's like, I got your back. I'm like, all right. So I unzip the life vest. I remember taking it off my right shoulder first, and then taking it off my left shoulder, and then like passing. It's just so interesting. I'm like passing the life vest over to Nicole. She's holding it with me, and then I just let go, and I start doing things. I start doing things with my body. Whether or not it's treaded water, all I know is I stayed up. I don't know if it's like textbook. I'm like, I stayed up, and I was like, I'm
Couldn't
doing it.
imagine.
I'm treading water. And here goes the funny thing about this here. It was about, I had that feeling of this like exhilaration for about 6 seconds. What feels more true is like three, but it's probably 6 seconds. And then in the seventh second, the next thought that came to my mind is like, what the hell? I can tread water? How long have I been able to tread water? Like there was no lesson. It was just like, I'm just doing the thing. How long have I been avoiding this here? How many things have I missed? Yes, I look great in orange, but like, it would have been so much better to just go out and play. Otherwise, how many experiences, how long have I been like ready to do this? And I didn't
Mm.
even know. And so you mentioned swimming, and to me that's something that I now apply in my trailblazing journey and the things that I do. Where I'm like, what am I waiting for? Chances are, I'm already ready. Like I don't like as much as I think I need to go learn something or have to get the right guru to tell me this or an expert to tell me this or to follow the right steps on this stuff. Like so, I'm like chances are I'm already ready. That's when you mentioned swimming, it like that story came to mind, and I haven't gone back to fourth grade in a very long time. So I'm appreciative of this. I'm appreciative of you like giving me a prompt that took me back to another place. And I know that this is going to be like things I'll write about. These would be stories that I'm going to include going forward in my work. So just I'm grateful for you in this moment here. This is how I love how we play this way.
I love that story. And when you say you were doing things, you might have even been swimming, like beyond treading water, you allowing your instinct to keep, and it's deep in
Yeah,
Halong Bay. Oh my
yeah,
God, you chose
yeah.
much, much deeper than that 10-year-old's deep end swimming pool.
Oh
Who
yeah.
knows if you didn't let that fear hold you back when you were 10 and jumped in, what would have changed for you?
And the funny part about that is like I like with my history, I never want to play revisionist. I am like my life is great. I'm in a position right now where I am championing the leaders who are shaping the next era of humanity. Like I
Mm,
might have learned how to swim back like treaded water back then, and then like I would have gone off and just like it would have taken me another 10 more years to get to this point. I think that this is what my soul like had in mind, no matter what.
yeah.
Um, but it's like I needed that lesson baked in over decades to then come out at Halong Bay and then to come into this conversation years later and realize my own journey on it. Like so there's a lot of thoughts around that there, but like my whole life feels like possibility, Georgie. It feels like it's like my whole life is something beyond what I could have imagined at any other stage of my life, you know? And so yeah, I'm like trying to entertain it, but I'm like, no,
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to change it because I know where I am now, and the foundations that I have for whatever will be able to come next, like they're just really strong.
Yeah.
They're really strong.
Yeah. It's a life lesson.
Yeah,
And I love
yeah,
the way that Nicole was there and you were almost,
yeah.
daintily passing it over to her. There you go. Yeah.
And in those moments where it's like I'm trusting you with my life. Here you are. Yeah.
Oh,
It is there. I'm like that element of. There's been a question that's been on my mind for a while, which is like, what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? Like, and I when you brought up the swimming, that took me to that right there, where it's like, hold on, what if you're already ready?
mm. What life jacket are you wearing right now? You need to take off.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I'll keep that in mind. Like, so, but now I'm playing this game where I'm like, uh, 365 days of questions, right? And not just like questions, but like it's intentionally playing this game, right? And so as the game is coming on, Georgie, I have to like create my own rules around it. I'm like, what are
Okay.
the rules of this game?
Yeah.
And one of the major rules that's coming up is it's not about the question. That's not about the answer, right? You have to
About the
come
question.
like it's about the question, and the way to win in this game is that for the next 24 hours, your job is to live into that question.
Yeah.
Does that mean anything to you when I say
Yeah,
live
it
into
does.
it?
And it reminds me of something that you said earlier because there's a parallel in there. We were
Yeah,
talking about skydiving, right? And you're like, sky falling, right?
yeah,
And you're trying to build the parachute as you fall. And one of the questions in the back of my mind was, do you really? You know, do you really? And then there's the whole idea. There's this parallel of here's a life jacket and just handing it over. To me, there's almost two. So those questions about, what parachute are you building and what life vest are you handing over, seems to be a theme. So yeah,
mm.
put those two questions together and play with them.
Well, I like it. My mind's already playing with them right there, right there. And it's there are just a lot of that's it. I mean, Georgie, I think you know this when we were talking about this guy that like look, we're just two, like we're two people who can bring something to life. Like we're powerful people who can rise up to the occasion that is called from us, right? You talked about like 24-hour notice before going skydiving for the first time, and then just like being in the air, just being like in a zen mode, you
Yeah.
know. It's like we were already ready.
Yeah. I was ready the minute that night before, when I just replayed the whole thing in my mind without the fear.
Hmm.
And I was like, if it's half as cool as this, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
Which actually begs the question, how much is the actual experience worth it as opposed to the whole setup? There we are hyping ourselves up to everything. And really, we're just like, enjoy the whole process, right? Even the fear, especially the fear.
Tell me more and help make this real for me. Like
Yeah.
I'm with you on the high level intellectual. Like yes, we can think about it in this way as a frame. You know,
Yeah.
help make it real for me, though. 'Cause I want to be with you.
So in my particular skydiving journey, right, there's no fucking way I'm getting on an aeroplane and throwing my body, my soft, crushable body out 2,000 meters above the air. No fucking way. Are you crazy? Ugh. And then I had that one question, that powerful question, right? What would it be like without fear? And then almost of its own volition, my mind just went, okay, I'm up on an aeroplane, la 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 la, out we go. Ooh, look at this. Bye, birdies. And I basically replayed the whole thing, but I replayed it from a place of silence. And I replayed it from a place of stillness. I was in my bed, right? And I did it from just observing and looking and not having that lurching feeling in my stomach, or even being aware of a bit of that lurching feeling in my stomach, but knowing I was safe. And I was like, okay. So to me, that first skydiving experience took place in my head, and it was fucking awesome. It was so awesome that the next day I'm like, I'm going to give this a go. Yeah, why not? Why not? And so when I actually really did plop out that plane, as opposed to somersaulting or anything else like my peers did, it was this very calm, quiet, lovely, centered journey. There was no hysteria, there was no fear, there was nothing. It was colder than I expected and louder than I visualized. It was really cold. But apart from that, it was just lovely and still. And part of me, the fear part of me before, when you said I'm not getting out of that plane, would have actually quite enjoyed that buzz of that adrenaline, and I didn't have it. So when I say enjoy the experience and the build up and the process rather than just the final outcome, I think we cut off huge parts of our lives and our experience trying to get somewhere, trying to be in a position where we can do something, as opposed to going, well, we're actually processing and living it all the time through our heads without even being aware of it. So let's bring awareness to that. Let's enjoy all of the steps that we're taking, because that's part of the process as well. It's elongated, right? It's not just the final dive. It's everything that it took to get there. Everything that it took, as you said, to get from grade 1 to grade however long, back round into a loop, and the 20 years in between. It's all of that, which you're celebrating. So yeah, that's really it for me.
Yeah, there's my mind goes to a number of different things here. One of it is that like I just feel just really just being here in this conversation with you, I feel this like the word disappointment comes to mind. Like the disappointment of like, yeah, I did skydiving, but it wasn't this adrenaline rush. It wasn't this thing. It was just like, yeah, I felt like I flopped out of the plane. We were good. I wish there's a like just point me in a direction there, but like there's an element that feels like I missed out on something. I get
Yeah,
like this element of that. I'm like,
yeah. That's my
yeah,
junkie side going, ah. I
yeah,
got to the end and I was like, that was beautiful. That was relaxing. It wasn't what I expected,
yeah,
but I could have got a whole lot more if I'd embraced that fear.
yeah.
I
All
did,
right,
I
so
did my Zen ninja on it,
mm, okay. And what would you, if instead of the Zen Ninja, what would you have wanted to like? What would you have wanted to bring, or like, what would you? Yeah, I'm curious. So you did your
So,
Zen
so
Ninja.
what I
What's the
what
other
I
thing?
would have, so I think Zen ninja was the perfect way to go, right?
Yeah,
And then I booked another one with my husband, however many years later, and there was a horrible storm and we never got up in the airplane, you know. So I would have gone through that, you know, cartwheeling out the air, well, whatever I could do without being caught in the rotaries, Indiana Jones style, you know. I
Yeah.
would have done whatever just to make it hell yeah, yeehaw, because I knew I could do it, right?
This is really interesting. I'm getting a vision right now at some point, of like you taking some of your coaching clients on like, and part of their program is going on a skydiving like jump with you, and just like just being able to experience that. One, for you to have your yeehaw moment, but I think like also just even in our conversation here, just seeing like what that level of like experience would be like, especially if you are like, you're like, look, I like to be exhilarated. I'm a junkie around that kind of stuff, you
Yeah,
know, to be able to incorporate that. Cause I don't like, there aren't, I think it's a really unique element to be able to bring into the coaching experience, as well as like having you as someone who can help like them navigate like the experience, not just like in the aftermath, you know, and to really go through and see like what was that journey like for you, where else does this apply in your life, so on and so forth. What are the lessons that we can take from this, and do it without in the container that you create in the ways that you do. So I just got this sense of like, yo, there's some power in this skydive in here,
yeah.
and if you're still craving it, like let me just at least plant the seed right there of taking at least one client, if not a group of clients at some point, and having as part of the experience here, like this, yeah, that exhilarating element.
That that sounds fun. Yeah, that sounds fun, but that's not where I think my magic lies. You know how you
Hmm.
talked about being a leader and being a leader through influence, and you said
Yeah,
something at the very beginning, which was just about being
yeah.
an influencer through being yourself. So I think my magic is being able to do the mind ninja and showing people that you can do that. So
Hmm.
another thing um, that is a parallel to this, which I did afterwards, years afterwards. I'm pregnant and first baby, and I'm like, I'm going to hypnobirth, you know, which you probably know about, right? Being a daddy.
I want to sit here and pretend that like, oh, absolutely, hypnobirth. I am well versed in it. I'm not. I'm
Oh,
not.
okay. So I really enjoy self hypnosis. So it's really just being able to use language correctly in your mind so that you reinforce positive scripts in your life, right? It's also NLP is all about the art and science of excellence. So you model yourself on best behaviors. So I already knew all about NLP, self hypnosis. I've been using it for years. Hypnobirthing is basically where you have a natural childbirth and you use visualization and you go in ahead of time. It's like being coached before birth, and you get rid of all of your fears. You talk through all of your fears with your partner. You change your language so you don't talk about um, contractions. You talk about surges. You don't talk about pain. You talk about intensity. You know, and by the time you're actually there, you're just so ready. So I went into hospital. The only way that I was able to track my surges was because I had this Kate Bush track on in the background, and I would have a surge, and then I'd visualize through it, and I'd go to sleep. I'd surge. I can sleep through anything, literally, right? I could probably have slept through that skydive if I was tired enough.
The Zen
And I
went to
was,
just that next level, right?
yeah, and I was awake, you know, and I was like, this is the same track. This is the same track that I've had two surges in. It's probably time to wake the hubby and go down and do this, you know? And the whole thing was just so centered. I was in that aeroplane and I was flying down, you know, the earth was shuttling towards me, this baby was coming out, and I was so centered and I was just there meditating. Doctor didn't even have time to show up, right? But luckily Darren's mum, my husband's mum, is a midwifery sister. She's given birth to lots of babies. And I was like, you deal with it. I've got this, you know, just you deal with the back end stuff. I'll deal with the front end stuff. And there we were. We were just a tag team. And it was just an easy, comfortable, natural, lovely birth, you know. If you just ignore all the noises of the nurses running around going, we were there, we had the music, blah, 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 literally within a few minutes of getting into the room, you know. That's my power. That is my sort of center in the storm. So this, when we came into this conversation about a whirlwind going on
Yeah.
around us, I'm just like, yep, cool, bring it. I create the whirlwind. I create the whirlwind. I can stop the whirlwind. I can drop it. I'm just here. I'm just here. So that to me is my metaphor for the skydiving. It's really about just what happens if you take fear out of your mind and just really trust in your body, trust in yourself, and just let go.
So there's a few different things that are coming to mind right here. Let me go to the one that I think. First, I'm just appreciative. I'm like, it's really cool to hear like how you went through the birthing process, and like, yeah, the way you say it, you're just like, oh yeah, and then like, it just happened, and that's also similar to how you talked about the skydiving experience. It's like, um, and so I love how you're like, this is where my magic is, my
Yeah.
like, and so I'm assuming here then like I get excited because like I love to also find out like what makes people different, right? And what are the skills here? What are the things where like you're able to just like, this is just naturally what I do. Like I'm able to visualize. I think about your clients being able to get the benefit of them being able to have these experiences and to inoculate themselves in different ways. And to, I mean, the power
Not
of language.
inoculate. Not inoculate.
Tell me more.
So inoculate sounds very synthetic. You
Okay.
know, it's unnatural. What I was doing there was the most natural thing, and I just trusted in it.
Mm-hmm.
The hospitals, everything else to me was kind of like a backup plan. I wasn't inoculating myself. I reckon
Gotcha.
I've given birth thousands of times in many, many lives. My body, as a female body, has been designed and evolved over many, many years. Women give birth in comas. I don't even need to do anything. I could just lie there and it will happen. Like in that aeroplane, the ground is coming up. I don't need to do anything. I just
Once you're
need to
falling,
relax.
yeah.
Yeah, you're committed. And there is a twinge that moment when you go through it, when it's like, oh, okay, this is what it feels like, and oh my God, I'm committed, totally committed, you know. Um, but it's no more difficult than having a giant shit, really. You know, when you get rid of that fear, it's kind of like, okay, I got this, you know. And
Yeah, I
then
think.
gas and air, that's brilliant. Off the worth it just for the gas and air alone.
So I'm happy that you called out the that word there, that which shall not be named right now. But I think that there's the element of the naturalness. The part that really rings out for me is like, I find myself curious as to like, how do you bring that into your practice? How do you bring some of this, like this magic that you just called out right now, into like the work that you do right now? So I understand how you've been able to bring it for yourself, and
Yeah,
and like we're having this conversation at a time where like the world is running all like rushing all around us. I really got, we started this whole thing about like I'm in the whirlwind, right?
yeah,
And I get right now that like, yeah, you can be in a whirlwind, but you are not the whirlwind. Like they are separate, and like you are the eye. It's almost like wherever your foot goes, like that's the eye. Wherever you choose to go, like that's the eye of the whirlwind. Like I'm thinking about the eye of the storm here, and it's just
yeah,
like the calm can just be with you on that. That's the sense that I get here. It's not the sense that I entered into this conversation with you with, but it's the
yeah.
sense that I'm getting right now, where I'm like, oh, she's the eye, like.
Which is funny because I do eye reading, right?
Mhm.
But yeah, no, I think I've come full circle in like a knowledge loop just by having this conversation. Because as you know, a lot of the coaching that I do is around eliminating fear, you know, and emotions that people repress and things that are holding them back in their life. So to me, this whole idea of just letting go and trusting in yourself is at the core of what I do. You know, that's I'm like a matchmaker, you know. This person, have you met your inner self? Yes, of course you have. You know, get together, trust yourself. I'll leave you alone. You'll end up in love, as you should be. And then I can tiptoe away. And that's as it should be, you know, because you're throwing yourself out that plane. It's the inner self that's going, I got this. It was the inner self whispering in my ear going, you've done this, don't worry. But it was the thought process going, oh my God, it's so scary. Oh my God, you shouldn't do this. Oh my God, you could die. Oh my God, if you have children, your backstage is going to be ruined forever, and there goes your husband. You know, not backstage, front stage, whatever. You know,
Mhm.
it's all of these voices that are in your head, all of these little fears, and then the rest. that inner self that goes, you got this, you got this. So that's where I'm coming from. It all comes down to fear and just letting go of the fear, not overcoming the fear, but just sort of listening to it and resolving it and integrating, right? Integrating and just stepping off that plane, you know, just, yeah.
Yeah, I do. I'm like, as we're in this conversation here, I'm just like, oh yeah, you have so many different tools like at your disposal for that, right? We were talking earlier. I don't know if it was in the recording or before or after, or I guess before is really what I was trying to say, about uh, leadership and coaching and influence, and
Yeah, this
coaching
one.
versus consultant. Yeah, so like to me, I'm like coaching is just a tool, right?
Yeah,
And what I'm hearing from you, I'm like, oh, you have just like so many different tools when it comes up, and people just like eliminate the fear to let go of it. And I love, and one of the other things I really love here is just like, well, there's a few different things. There's going to come some acknowledgments are coming your way, but one of the things I really love is just how solidly in integrity and in your own like solid ownership of knowing like, yeah, a, my magic is in the mind. B, like it's like I'm not here to even help people overcome their fears. I'm here to just help them let it go. Right. That's a huge distinction, because a lot of people are like, they're thinking they don't even know that there's that option, you know, or they're thinking like, I need to come and overcome it. And they're like, well, what if we just were able to just let that go altogether? Like, what if you didn't need to overcome it? What if you didn't have to what if it wasn't an adversary? What if it was just this thing and you can just
yeah,
walk by it and continue forward?
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
that's a distinction that you bring to the table.
and I hadn't even thought of that. Yeah,
This is why I
yeah,
love like Let's Chat as a tool,
yeah,
because it's to not have us thinking. And like the part of this that's really helpful is that while we're having this conversation, we're also listening. We're like, there's like deep listening that's taking place, and actually like hearing it. As you're talking, I'm like, oh, what you just said as a matter of fact statement, as like, this is just how it is,
yeah. Because you don't
blows.
know. Yeah, I just think everybody knows that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, all
Yeah.
right.
And that there, Georgie, like that's been one of the bigger things that has like really helped me recently in terms of just bringing more service to my clients, and then also with various thought leaderships and some of the activities that I organize, like recognizing that like actually a lot of people don't know. A lot
Yeah,
of people just don't know. And it's not a bad thing. It's just like, it's like they don't know. And it's like, and we've learned it. And like, it's kind of funny because it's like, if you think about like, where did you learn this versus this? Sometimes it's hard to actually even capture it. We've gone to that point of like, we're unconsciously competent in our ability to do this. It's just like, oh yeah,
right.
that's how the world works. You know,
Yeah,
it's one of the best things about choosing to lead a platform for me is that it's caused me to have to like be able to discern and distinguish what it is that I do. It's why distinctions are so important, because I'm like, in order to teach other people, or to either to teach or to create an environment where they can learn whatever that lesson needs to be for them, I have to be able to be conscious again about the things that I was unconscious about, you
yeah.
know?
That's great.
So I love this here. There's a level of, this is also why like I think I was going to call this a tool. It's like, it's the reflection, right? So like within the Let's Chat tool, there's like the deep listening, like hearing what you're saying and really hearing, like I'm a pattern recognizer. So I can see patterns as they're coming, but I also get pattern interrupts, right? I'm like, wait, I didn't expect that, you know? And it's in that moment that I'm like, boom, like that's a distinction. I get super curious. People become infinitely more interesting to me. I'm like, please, please, please tell me you're bringing this out into the world or into your work in some
Mm,
way, shape, or form, because that record scratch right there is
mm,
part of like the path that only you can blaze. Like that's the part of the trail that only you can blaze. That to me becomes really important. I now know where I'm like, if someone's like, I'm stuck, I've been trying to overcome this fear and all this, I'm like, oh, let me ask you, like, what would it be like to like not have to overcome it, but to be able to like have the tools to be able to consistently be able to move forward and be able to go through experiences that most other people will use language that is like in very destructive or like very challenging and all this. Like I can feel my entire body just like starting to crunch in, right?
Mm.
And instead be able to go through that experience, like maybe it's skydiving, maybe it's giving birth, but like with a place of commitment, then just like, yep, we're good here. Actually, I'm a little underwhelmed to be honest, but
Yeah,
we're okay. That's
yeah,
the
yeah,
feeling I get from you,
yeah,
you know. But I can speak to that. I'm like, if that's the case, I'm like, I know someone. I know someone you should talk to.
yeah. Yeah, so I love that you call out those groups. Please do that. That's an amazing service. And yeah, and it's really helped me sort of crystallize my unique spot.
Yeah. And I want to just call this out too, because like one of the things, it's really wonderful being in this conversation with you, just given our own journey here, right? I've invited you to be a part of the Trailblazer Collective. I'm going to spend some time talking about that right now because
Mm.
that's the space that I just get most excited about, where like curated a group of peers who are leaders in so many different ways. They're influential leaders. They're globally minded, socially conscious, and impact driven, right? They're people like you, Jordy, who have lived life and are consistently trying to find new ways to both push the boundaries and to bring their level of impact out into the world beyond the success, but like also into impact. And it's like with that, it's part of the reason why I love having like we're having this conversation. It's just you and I in this conversation. You're getting just my reflection. What's really cool, and this is why I decided I wanted to do a community, not even just a small group, but a full community, is that it brings out many different lenses simultaneously, right? So I'm reflecting based on things that you said that I can see based on the lenses and filters that I have installed in me as a result of my training, and really my life experiences, right? The way that I look at the world, right? Uh, and to be in environments where someone can listen and bring their lens and to tell you what they're hearing, so that again we go from being unconscious about it to conscious. What is so cool about this conversation for me on an unspoken level is the number of things in this conversation that you have owned as part of your power. We brought up like
Right.
skydive. You like
Yeah.
literally you're like I do eye reading like and I've given like I've given birth thousands of times through this life and many others. Like the magic that I have is I work with the magic of the mind. Like talking about your ability to visualize and really get yourself and to see it and have it be created at least once beforehand, and like the way that you look at asking different questions and making sure that you have different questions that are more powerful, and the fact that you're like, I don't help people overcome their fears. Like for me, it's about like just letting go of it all together. I can help. Like that's what I do. You know,
Yeah.
there's this calm, centered ownership of this like of the various things that make you awesome, and it's not haughty. It's just true. I guess that's it. Like it's just the truth. And what I'm loving in this conversation is that is how much ownership you have of that, not from any other reason. There's no external pressures, no external anything that needs to be, but you just know like, yeah, this is this is how I operate, this is just what I do. So I want to just acknowledge that and call that out, because it's been a journey and I've seen how that's happened in this conversation different to conversations we've had over the past months.
And you've been majorly instrumental in that journey. So a huge gratitude there. And one of the key takeouts that I've got from this conversation, just laddering it up, is
Yeah.
how I talk about this dichotomy of sort of wanting to have that time to be still and be within, as opposed to out and about and everywhere else. Being able to be in that aeroplane and to be centered means that I can ladder up to a whole new perspective of impact and achievement, but still have that stillness within. It doesn't have to be an either or. I can still achieve great things as long as I've got my center of gravity, and that's inside, you know?
Absolutely. I think there's an element of this that like if anyone that's watching, if they get that that element of being able to carry that with them is incredibly important. Now, I just noticed what I'm noticing here is that I didn't get a chance. I didn't actually reflect back to you. I lost our connection here for the sake of something that was probable. So let me come back to this here. I'm thrilled that you see that levels, that center of gravity, that idea of being in the airplane and being able to keep laddering it up and leveling it up and taking it to wherever heights you want to. Like regardless, again, I'm still just thinking of you as like the eye in that whirlwind. It's like, and the number of what's really cool too, and I think this is something that like we were talking about being earlier, right? As part of like I've been thinking about, I'm like, I know that there's thought leadership. uh I, I get the thoughts. I have lots of thoughts. I want to be like, I'm like, what is being leadership? And now I'm starting to see that's influencing, you know. But being leadership is part of the being part of it. Like you walk around as the eye, and you like, it's funny, but I feel like you go out and you're like, oh, there's a whirlwind going on here, let me just like walk in, let me just walk into that,
Jump
let
in.
me let me jump in, let me just fly on into that whirlwind, and then like let me help
Yeah,
whoever it is to be able to be like, hey, do you want to stay in this whirlwind? Like we
yeah,
can help you overcome it, but like if you're something even better, like I have those options too. And like, but
yeah,
like to me that is something that is like very magnetic about your being here, where it's like it's not let out there.
yeah. I'm their orange life vest that they can gingerly pass over to their wife afterwards.
Look at this. We're coming in all the circles here.
Yeah.
Georgie, I think this is let's. I'm feeling complete right now in this conversation. I'm glad that we did this. I'm glad we decided to chat uh, and at the same time still make it something of meaning. To go to like we went places here that we wouldn't have gone if had we chosen other modalities. And I think that
Yeah.
that's one of the things that I love most, where it's just like, let's come and serve what needs to be served. No matter what, you're going to leave here with greater insights, greater like more awareness and different perspectives on things that you hadn't seen. Um, but first and foremost, let's make sure we create the space for that to take place. So I'm glad we created this space together. Um, I'm looking forward to playing more with you inside of the collective and all the different modalities. You have like, it's the things we're doing in there are just, in my mind, it's like I'm creating a year long intensive. I've done 2 days, I've done 4 days. Um, you've been a part of the intensive that I've done. Um, and now I'm like, well, what if that container was able to actually continue to grow over
Mm.
time? Like, what? That's the question I'm living into. Like, who will people become as a result of being able to be in this kind of space, to practice, to be messy, and to like also have people who can listen and discern and help them as they're moving through. That's a really fun question for me, and so I'm glad we got to play a different way today, and to make
Mm.
this also okay.
Thank you. It's impossible not to get insights, even when chats around you. That's your superpower.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. I'll take that. Conversations is my tool. Like
Yeah.
that's it. All right, Georgie.
Niiamah,
I'll talk
thank
to you
you.
soon. Okay. All the best.
Bye.
Bye. Heyo, Niiamah here. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't yet, and then go ahead and leave one of your insights from today's video in the comments below. If you're looking to take this deeper, you can go and watch another video, or you can go to niiamah.com/tribe to get exclusive invitation to our tribe member only events. I'll see you soon.